Live from New York. Just kidding. We're in Pennsylvania. Audio commentary for Shadows.
Shadows.
Greetings, patrons.
Shadows.
Too much coffee, man. I went about 2.5, 3 years without coffee, and that's over.
Ground to a halt.
It's a real problem, the way it transforms my personality. I really feel like it makes me more of a dick, but it makes me more efficient as a human being. So it's a real predicament. Do I want success at the expense of having a more well-tempered personality, or do I want to live a much more humble and modest, less far-reaching existence, but be a lot more palatable to be around? That's quite a choice to make.
It is quite a choice.
What do you say?
Yeah. So today,
all right, let's play. We should play the. We're gonna play the original demo of Shadows when we're in the room.
We're queued up.
Let it rip. Let it rip.
This was the first within an hour of writing it, probably. All right. So
Yeah.
Here we go.
yeah,
Let me turn it down a little bit. We got a little bit of clipping.
oh, that's in the track.
That's
It's part of the
Oh,
tone.
the distortion pedal on the piano. Oh, I sing there? Wait, is this our song?
change that.
Let's fix my hair a little bit.
All the notes.
It's jazz. Oh, that was the weird. I always feel the need to like comment on just how sketchy the vocals are, but it's like that's gonna be it every time.
Listen to all the
Yeah. You're always listening to the
minor
thing
and
you're
major
doing.
thirds I'm putting on at the same time.
The minders. There's a lot of minders.
Minders.
Is this Kendall's first track?
Seconds.
This was second. Yeah. And Rodney together.
Wow.
I don't think we wrote Who Does the Devil Blame from lyrics first, and then we came with chords first. This one we did with lyrics first.
Oh yeah, you might be right. I had the lyrics written, but you started playing that. You started playing the thing, and I was like, oh, these lyrics would fit good over there. I think you're right.
I
Yeah.
love it. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
No one
sounds
right way.
Yeah, exactly.
Turn this down a little bit.
Still?
Yeah, I just can't hear you. 60 hum cycle.
Delicious.
It's meditative.
But most of the track is there. Quite honestly, the track is along. Sucks the Lord.
I love the upbeats. I'm the hype man for our band as well. I like to put fictional fans in the background. Like, how do they just do that?
This is what people will think during this part.
They're gonna love it. Gross.
Jazz note. It's important to remind people that we are jazz influenced.
Absolutely.
This is part number
Second bridge.
second bridge.
I love how you did the harmonies here. It's all new.
Yeah.
Ah, see, that's what I'm talking about. Did some beautiful work vocally on this song.
before the much better guitar solo.
A bar and a half.
Boom, boom.
Before we learned how to play our instruments.
Like, guys, what if this part it sounded like Jerry's first guitar solo? It's an artistic statement.
Trolls tripping down the stairs.
I am so pumped about how the guitar solo turned out.
yeah.
Right now. Yeah, bro.
Like we were on the fence as to whether or not the meat would fit in this project. You know, we were having our doubts.
Yeah.
And then we gave every reason under the sun, but we just couldn't. Once he played the solo, it was done. It was locked in. He wrote his own contract.
That's when we changed him to the
$1 million,
radiator.
you say?
You just signed here. I'm filling the contract.
Congratulations, son. You're stuck. Here,
Son, you're gonna play with James Brown.
Here's the key. Oh.
So you're gonna need you to put your hands behind your back. Head down.
Yeah.
Then the magical fade out. We gonna play a little bit of the original track, or is it like
Oh yeah, this is the
the
studio
final
cut, right?
Yeah.
You want to play the actual?
Play the actual
Yeah.
guitar solo,
We
actually.
should definitely. At
Oh,
least
play the actual song.
Yeah, we got that.
First of all, I think I would really like to congratulate Kindo on like this track. I think it's like a next production-wise, again, sonically-wise, chord, harmonically, it's very rich. Oh, it's rich, buddy.
It feels like it was a little bit of a graduation,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
And I'm hoping that we'll take our newly developed skill sets and
Yeah,
carry this
yeah.
standard of
And-
songcraft and production craft. And this is again like still relatively thrown together. So by the time we get this into official release shape,
Yeah,
Oh, there's gonna be a horn solo at the end. We're gonna write for sure.
yeah.
Mm.
Let me ask you guys
That shit.
actually about that.
yeah, about that.
About that. Is it a nightmare that it's when it's done, it's not done?
It's this. There's a little bit of nightmare, but there's a little bit. It's like a release valve for me. Like when we're like at the deadline, because I just freak out.
To those who just tuned in at
Yeah.
home, when Kindo released a track on Patreon, it's for Patreon
That's right.
supporters
It's
only.
At least for the
now.
interim. For now.
At least the immediate future.
Yeah.
So before the track is on Patreon, it's being created live in the studio, as everyone is trying to remember it and figure out how it's gonna be.
That's what
at
the
the end.
that's what that demo is. We
Yeah.
just heard.
And then that demo turns into an expensive demo,
Mm-hmm.
which is the Patreon release.
Yeah.
Which I think for this one and Who Does the Devil Blame sound actually, I think surpassed like recordings as far as like stands shoulder to shoulder as
Sure.
quality wise.
For most of the, I don't know how many of the old releases.
All of
Joey,
them.
Well, Joey does a pretty tremendous job. I mean, we consider it a fancy demo, but for all intents and purposes, it's really there's a certain threshold. Like he will not allow it to dip below if it's going to be released, especially to our patrons who we value so much. So it's like we need it to be of a certain quality.
Got to feel good enough about it.
You gotta feel like, oh hell yeah, before we release it. So it's not like this isn't. All the ideas are there. It's just maybe some of the extra ornaments, like strings, horns, a little bit more. Other elements that we might think about after the fact. That we're like, oh, you know what? Now having sat with the track for a month or two, it's like, oh, I could really imagine this here. It's
After the emotional excitement dwindles of like it's new that we made, it's good to reapproach it with a more sober mind and be like, okay, let me listen to that track we did 4 months ago.
right.
And do I still have all the butterflies? And I feel like we can see more clearly. Like, okay, here's a couple things I think there's room for improvement. It's just like that last measure of, that last measure of improvement that just pushes it that extra little bit for the final release, to attention to high resolution detail. I think it feels good to have that in our back pocket when we release these. Like,
Yeah.
cool, I feel good about it, but for the final release, we'll just make sure we feel extra good about our decisions.
We're wearing all the hats here,
Yeah.
right? So it's self-produced, self-recorded, self-mixed.
Yep.
We're playing all the instruments.
It's pretty insane.
It's definitely insane, but
It's the new way.
it allows us to then take that. We can put on the producer-specific hat and then give it a little bit more attention with some separation from like the initial creator's investment that you have. And
Yep.
he's like, no, I can't change. It's my part. You know?
This is true.
Want to talk about the lyrics a little bit?
Sure, yeah.
Which
Well,
are
let's see.
some of my
I'll
favorite.
avoid going down a rabbit hole on these because I just my favorite thing to do.
The recipe, you say? What's the recipe, you say?
The secret to life.
The Shadows is essentially about stopping the process, which we are all susceptible to, of running away from the parts of us that we're uncomfortable with, whether it's social anxiety or just self-dissatisfaction in general, and then trying to numb the pain of that with things like coffee and alcohol and other contraband.
Or chamomile tea.
Or chamomile tea, whatever your drug of choice is. And deciding you're going to pivot and actually turn and lean into that discomfort and see if there's something you can do about it. That is the harder move, but you're always better for it. And so it's just a little call to action, I guess. And like all of our songs, I write them about me. It's about my experience and my journey. It's the only thing I can write about because it's the only experience I really have. So, and I write it in good faith that being a human being, other human beings have the same experiences that I have, and that people will be like, yeah, oh yeah, I know that too.
Yeah.
There's totally those parts of me that I'm like, man, I really need to like look at this part of me, and then go turn on Netflix instead. You know.
I can't think of a track that hit me quite like this. In terms lyrically, especially, it's just it's as relatable as they come for me. So yeah, I definitely I use this almost as kind of a when I feel like I'm if I can catch myself in a moment of clarity and find myself escaping or avoiding something that's bothering me subconsciously, I use this as an example of how to kind of call myself back. I really do.
Yeah, and I think that the fruit of that leaning into is evidenced through sort of a regular practice. If you can carve out a piece of your day every day that you just spend taking stock in, like, all right, let me just reflect on the day, the things I did, the things I said, the things I thought and felt. It doesn't have to be crazy, but just sitting and thinking about it, just let it come to you. You can come to a lot of great insight on yourself and maybe repeat less mistakes tomorrow. That's kind of like the ultimate goal.
Not easy.
Not easy at all.
Not easy.
But a choice to be made.
Worthy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Worthy journey.
Let's see. Anything else musically? The guitar. Can we listen to the guitar solo? Because this guitar solo, I'm so pumped. We got a little like George Harrison in there.
We ordered this guitar solo online. We assembled it.
Yeah.
It was great.
I want to actually, before we get to that even, because it's on the way,
Yeah.
talk about how you got to this melodic idea, maybe, like in the because it's very different than the demo.
So, yeah. So, all the songs that we do, I would say that the last 15 Patreon songs I started employing this method, and it's just a process. I always tell, a phrase I always say is have faith in the process, right? Because it takes pressure off of your ability, your desire to like shit out. You feel like you need to shit out gold. If you're not shitting out perfection, then you're failing. People rarely can just crap something out and whatever that is, it's just perfect the way it is. And when it happens, it's special, but you can't just do that voluntarily. So the process is, for me, I'll sketch out the vocal like you heard on that demo, and then once we lay down the skeleton in Pro Tools, I think K-Man laid down the drums, and we had piano. I'll rewrite the vocal melody on just piano without the lyrics or any voice, because the voice adds a lot of expression that maybe a MIDI keyboard can't add. And so it's like, well, the really boring sound has to be compelling enough to like it. It's kind of like the idea behind it. So it's like, all right, so I'll recreate the melody, and anything that feels like it could be improved, I'll just mess with it until like, oh, that feels good. So same thing, when I got to the bridge, I wasn't super pumped, obviously. I didn't have any particularly distinct idea for the bridge other than some random ideas I sang, and going through fleshing it out with the piano and Pro Tools, and with the lyrics on the other screen, just making sure the phrases work, and then kind of thinking in my head, okay, I could I could see how that'll fit. And then feeling good about that. And then when I go to record the vocals, I'm essentially having to learn from scratch how to sing those intervals and those melodies with these lyrics to it. And I would say generally 40 to 50% of my vocal tracking experience on these songs is me learning how to sing those phrases. And I'll record a pass, and I'll always listen back. My goal is to have 5 takes that I'm really happy with. So it might take me 15 to 20 takes before I get the first take I like. Each time I record a pass, I listen back and I think, okay, how could that be better? And I'll record, and then I'll try again. And I'll do that until it stops getting better, until I feel like I'm not making any more progress. And then I go to capture 5 of what I would consider the ceiling of my ability at that point in time. So that process I can have faith in, because I can control the number of iterations I do, but I can't control where my ceiling is, but I can control that I find the ceiling.
That's an amazing series of checks and balances, actually.
Yeah, and it's not new. Like, I think the idea for that came, I think it was Jordan Peterson was talking about how to write a good essay, and it's essentially the same process. Like, well, you just have to go high resolution. You first break down, you have a chapter, you have paragraphs, sentences, and words, and all of those things have different, you can change the order of each of those things down to the specific words you use. Start by writing a shitty first draft. That's the first thing you do. Then you go back, okay, you chop away the stuff that's not good, you rewrite stuff to articulate it in a more clear and more concise manner, and you keep repeating those steps and refining it until you actually can't tell whether or not it's better anymore. And once you can't tell what you're doing is better than what you did before, you know you've reached your ceiling. But as long as you have a sense like, that doesn't feel quite as good as it could be, you still have work to do. So that's kind of the general process I'll apply. Like, when it comes to melody writing, ideally every part of every creative process, but there are other variables that dictate how deep you can go into that budget time. But in general, that's how the bridge came to be vocally, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out as a result.
One of my favorites.
So it's fun. Let's listen to this guitar solo, because I think we did a similar process when we were putting the guitar solo together. It was, we were following that compass, and so like, let's try this, and until we were high-fiving each other like a scene out of Top Gun.
High five in Predator.
That's right, yeah. Come here, you son of a bitch. This bastard here. This bastard played a great guitar solo.
Come on.
Too much coffee.
Come on.
Want some spaghetti? Elf.
Love the octaves.
They're fun.
That's
Just
right
throw
up
them in
my
here.
alley.
Yeah.
Octave. Flames. Whole arena explodes. Front row. Yeah, the sacrifice. Someone's got the sacrifice.
But I gotta say, my favorite feedback in the song was K-Man's like, yeah, show my dad shadows. Yeah, it's like, he said, what did he say?
He wasn't
I didn't
wowed.
hear that.
He wasn't wowed.
No way!
I love dads.
Dads are the best.
Dads are great.
Never impressed.
Yeah.
They keep you striving
They
for
do.
higher.
That's right.
A higher level you will never achieve.
Yeah, and
Right?
you know, a big message to aspiring musicians: always write music to please your parents.
Yes.
Always.
Actually, that goes for any decision.
Make
quite
sure your
frankly.
dad likes what you do, otherwise it's not good.
You know, if you think about Aphex Twin, and like, you gotta please your parents.
That's right.
If you're thinking about Aphex Twin, go back to school, be an engineer, doctor, or lawyer. Essentially, that's what the message is.
Well, we really appreciate you tuning in to the audio commentary for Shadows. I hope this found you well and enriched. And until next time, thank you so much for your support, patrons. We are going to continue making that music for you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
You and your support and the residency.
That's right. Those who are in the New York area, November 20th, Wednesday at Rockwood Music Hall, Latin Night, the third Kendo experience. You won't want to miss it. Love you so much. Sweet dreams.